Hello everyone, and here I'm taking a look at this week's free game at Epic Game Store, In Sound Mind. This is a psychological horror game filled with puzzles, boss fights, and with a creepy vibe all the way through. You start things off as Desmond, a psychiatrist, and you're basically going through your own psychological hell, living through each of his different patients as unique levels and boss fights and puzzles throughout this. Now, the big thing you want to be looking at is if you're into horror, this is probably down your alley and you should be picking this up. Now, if you're not into horror, that's where things get a lot more interesting. I find that a lot of this is there's not so much forced jump scares throughout this game, but there is a creepy vibe and you could find yourself in unintentional jump scares. The puzzles in this game, I would say aren't, overly complicated. I never really felt like I needed to look at a guide or anything, and nothing really stumped me for too long. So I definitely say the difficulty of the puzzles, I'd say it's out of 10 in difficulty score, 10 being the highest. I would give it between a 3 and a 4. There's some, you'll spend a little bit of time trying to figure some things out, but they will spell it out. Like, there's parts where you gotta find parts for a pistol. Yeah, it's one of those things where you just look around, scavenger hunt mostly. They'll show different mechanics. There's a bit where you have to use the mirror, where you have to use mirror reflections. Yeah, puzzles were great. They were entertaining enough, and they definitely served the game well. One thing that I really think that takes away from the creepy vibe is the man in the telephone, that he's trying to be scary, but to me it really just felt really corny, and it took all the tension away from everything that was happening. It was actually a nice reprieve, but I don't think that's what they were going for in this game. And I think that's something that this game will either help you go through and relieve tension, or it will throw you off and just totally be a negative. And I think it detracts more than it gains, and it's something that they probably could have cut out. From my experience so far, maybe it really adds to it later on, but yeah, that's just my experience. This game also scores points for letting you be able to pet a cat. This, if you're in, kind of into horror a little bit, I'd say, give this a shot. You might be very surprised in how much you may enjoy this title. The performance, I have a 2080 Ti, a Ryzen 3900 XT, 32 gigabytes of RAM, and I was able to run this in 4K on mostly the high settings, not maxed out. I was dealing with a little bit of performance hiccups when I maxed things out. I turned everything down just one notch down to high, and it was running great. If you're running at a lower resolution, it should behave great for your computer depending on your specs. I think it handled mostly pretty well in performance. The audio is great. It definitely sets the mood. I was feeling, the tense, but I wasn't, I'm not a big into horror titles myself, but I will go through some from time to time, and I was feeling that I was going to be able to continue through this title, no problem. Nothing felt like it was too much. I was able to focus on the puzzles, and I was all around having a pretty good time. I made it through a couple of the levels within just about an hour of play. I looked at the total progress, and I'm only just through the beginning of the game. There's plenty of game to go through this, so all in all, I think this is a definite pickup. If you're not absolutely hate horror or anything that, would give any sort of creepy vibe, I guess that's enough to stay away. But I think this is a great intro into horror games. Hope you guys enjoyed this short little should you get it. Please like and subscribe.